Testing 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, for those who are Zooming with us, we're going to get started real shortly. We're just getting our live stream up.
I don't want to bother with all that technical.
I don't know what.
If you know some notes for me, because as you know, when you manage 20 people,
check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, listen, we're not starting yet, or are we starting yet? Is the Zoom, the stream's going? Okay, I'm putting my phone on vibrate because it's been ringing and going off the hook. So, all right, I'm not starting. Somebody else, somebody who sounds much better than me is going to get us started.
Hello, everyone. Would you like to stand with me, sing a song? We're going to sing Welcome Table. And I don't know if we have slides up there. It's going to be, I'm going to sing at the welcome table. Next one, I'm going to feast on milk and honey. All of us are going to sit together, and then I'm going to sit at the welcome table. I know some of you know this song. Here we go. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey one of these days. I'm gonna feast on milk and honey. Gonna feast on milk and honey one of these days. One of these days. All of us are gonna sit together. All of us are gonna sit together one of these days. All of us are gonna sit together. Gonna sit together one of these days. One of these days. And I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Yes, I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Hallelujah. I'm gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's really, really good to see you here. We've been working on this for over a year now, so for those of us on the planning committee, we're ecstatic that you're here. And first, before I give announcements, could the planning committee please stand? These are the people that you need to know the look of and thank them over and over. And if you have questions, we have the red shirt badge on front, for those of you who know anything about science fiction. I have a couple of announcements for you before we get going. First, for those of you who are from out of town, if you need a ride or are willing to give a ride, please check in with one of the red shirt team members and we'll help you with that. Your name tag also is your ticket for lunch. This is particularly important tomorrow, which has a public meeting of our keynote speaker, people who have not paid for their lunch. So we are going to be monitoring lunch to make sure you have your ticket. And then the third item is if you have reserved and picked up your t-shirt, but were not provided with a laptop to do the payment, please see a planning team member to make sure that we've actually done that. It has to go through the church's website, unfortunately. It's a little confusing. And then my final announcement is that if you have cell data, if you could use that instead of the church's Wi-Fi, we would greatly appreciate it. The church has limited internet bandwidth, and we really need it for our Zoom attendees. So if you could, we would appreciate it. If you're on a Mexican plan like I am, that's okay to use the Wi-Fi. And then Tom Mosher, who is the president of the board of the church here in Spokane and a member since 1969, he's the parliamentary advisor to the church and also said well, he has known Todd since 2011, is going to introduce us to the church. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome from our Board of Trustees. And speaking for the congregation, also welcome you here. Glad to have you and to be your host facility for this first summit. As it was said, I've known Todd since 2011. I was actually in Arizona when he and I first communicated, and that was by email. And I was one who took, not the word offense comes to mind, but one of his policies. As some of you know, Todd, when he came from Louisville to here, came with the condition that he would not perform any marriage ceremonies until he could form marriage ceremonies for everybody. And I'm down there in Arizona, and although my daughter was married at the time, I wrote him an email and said, do you mean that my daughter, who was born in this church, went through our RE program and wanted to get married, that you would marry her? And that started a little dialogue, which ended up with Todd inviting me when I came back to Washington to sit down and visit. And we spent about an hour and a half together, and I learned an awful lot about Todd, and I have been, ever since then, one of his strongest supporters, and I consider him one of my best friends. So with that mild comment and explanation, let me introduce Reverend Dr. Todd Eckloff, as known to all of us as Todd.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you so much. And Shelley, do you mind turning the lights on just a little bit on the stage here? So I know Todd's been busy. The other Todd has been very busy this morning, so thank you. I just want to check. I got something from Stephen Palmer. I want to make sure that everything's going okay here at the start. And he's, let's see, I don't see a text from him. Let me see if he left me a message. Stephen's one of our online hosts, so I want to make sure our folks online are okay. In fact, Todd, do you mind bringing up the Zoom room so we can see if maybe we can just test their microphones? Can you guys hear us okay on Zoom?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Can you hear us?
Yes. And is Stephen Palmer there with you? I wonder,
No,
I wonder
he
if
is
they're in
not
another
here.
room.
And we have also,
Says the group,
and we have,
Zoom group can let me just check this. I'm so sorry. The minister's work is never done. Okay, let me call him. He seems to think the Zoom group is not online. Gail.
yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we're definitely here.
Let me, unless somebody else has Stephen's number and would want to call, well, let me just call him real quick. I want us to stay together.
We could text Todd. He's got his phone in his hand.
Let me just, you say Stephen is on there with you?
No.
Hey, Stephen, this is Todd. Stephen, can you hear me? This is Todd Eckloff. Yeah, we are. Are you on Zoom?
Yeah, we aren't connected to it.
Yeah, Gail's on there. Yep.
Yeah. I sent a text to them and said,
Oh yeah. Well, I think they had different screens up or something. But anyway, we're ready to start, buddy. We've been waiting on you. That's all right. We'll see you. Okay, get back on. We'll see you in just a minute. Okay, bye. All right. See, that's how it goes. After that fine invitation from my wonderful friend Tom Mosier. Anyway, Holy mackerel, can you believe it? That's unbelievable. It is crazy. Look at us. We're here. We're here on our Zoom, and people from, yeah. And so I think the first thing I wanted to really talk about is who is here. And I know at least Stephen Palmer is here. Should be. We stalled for enough time for him to get back on. But I just want to get some shout outs from the group as to where you might be at. And we'll take turns here so we can hear from our friends who are attending via Zoom. By the way, the live stream's up too, so some folks are live streaming with us. But let's start with the room. Who's from where? Give me a location. Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. North Carolina. Yay. Madison, Wisconsin. Where? Hillsboro, Oregon. Port Townsend, Washington. Seattle, Washington. Spokane, yeah. Okay. Connecticut. Port Vallarta. I can't say it as well as you. Yes. Edmonton, Alberta. We've got some other folks from Canada, right? All right.
I'd say
Florida, that counts.
reminder that
You're close to being on the other side of the world, but not so far away. What's that? Another California and Port Ludlow. Wow. It takes about as much time to get from Port Ludlow to Seattle as it does from Seattle to Spokane, I think. Yes. Corvallis, Oregon. British Columbia, yes. Yes, there's folks here from British Columbia, right? Just about 5 seats up from you. Yeah. All right. And now let's turn to our friends on Zoom. Where are you guys from? Where are you coming from? Just unmute yourselves and shout it out.
Port Ludlow, Washington.
Port Ludlow.
I'm going to go back and see if we're on.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Waterville, Maine.
Chicago, Illinois.
It's all right. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Charlotte, Washington.
Kalamazoo, Michigan. Great. Listen, we're having a little bit of...
Mr. BC, Canada.
All right.
Sheffield, Alabama.
Sheffield, Alabama.
Tucson,
Spokane.
All right. Some more from Spokane, yes. You guys are freezing up just a little bit. Could be a bandwidth thing. So folks, if there's anybody in the building here who's connected to the Wi-Fi, it might be helpful for you to get off, as Joyce said. But anyway, it's great to have folks from so many different locations. The Canadians make us an international organization, or from their perspective, the U.S. makes us an international perspective. So we definitely want to be inclusive.
I heard one person from France, Todd.
From France? Ah, yes. I think that must be John. Wonderful. Great to have you all the way from France. And you'll learn more as our association goes on. But we discovered, firstly, I would say I discovered very early on the phenomenon we were experiencing in Unitarian Universalism here in the U.S. is also happening in Canada. In fact, I just hear horror stories about what's going on in Canada. I mean, some of the illiberalism and authoritarianism being presented there is equally as bad. But some of the folks that initially supported me were from Canada, including Terry Anderson over here, who contacted me early on. And I realized very early that if we were going to start an association, we needed to include our Canadian brothers and sisters as well, which is why it's the North American Unitarian Association. However, as Terry and Stephen Palmer and others have found out, John, in fact, who joined us from France, is that this is really happening all over the globe to Unitarians, and we're very quickly becoming an international organization. So that will manifest either as we will create an additional international organization. Thank God we have Bruce Knotts on our side, who's very experienced in that and is helping with that, that NAUA will become part of, or NAUA will shift to being a more international organization. I think that the former is the more likely. But we are representative of people from all over the countries who have shared a similar experience. And the worst part of that has been we have been demonized and dehumanized and silenced and shunned, really. And that's the worst part, because we just haven't been able to dialogue. That's all we're saying. We're not saying the UUA's or the CUC's ideology has gone bad, and we vehemently disagree, and therefore you're bad people. That's not our shtick. We do disagree with the ideology that they are promoting at this time in some ways. And our only point is, why can't we talk about those differences? That's what we're supposed to be about. We are here today because we've been told that there is forbidden topics and forbidden conversations, and you better shut up or you're out. That's why we're here. We're not here because of an ideological disagreement about race and how we address race. We may disagree with that, but that's not why we're here. We're here because, above all, we believe we should be able to come together despite our differences, love each other, and work together on things that are important. And so NAUA is here to continue our liberal tradition. So, and I'm glad that Joyce Kinnear welcomed the planning team. I would like for the planning team to stand again so I can actually name you. There's a lot of volunteers behind this organization. I'm not going to list everybody today. I would get into trouble, but I think the planning team especially, all I had to do was step out of the way, and they put together a masterful program for us. So thank you all so much. But if you would stand again, of course, Joyce Kinnear and Scott Kinnear. Joyce, who chaired the committee with us. Candace Schmidt and Cindy Fine, who were both on part of our congregation here in Spokane. Thank you all so much. And excellent job with the hotel. Thank you all so much for making that happen. It's a beautiful location, beautiful place. Judi Durham is here. Yeah, yes. And Joanne Kretek, am I saying that, Joanne, correctly? Good. John Wonderland, of course, is right here. And Terry, I'm going to include Terry Anderson because he's attended at least most of those meetings. And we wouldn't have the technological success or difficulties without Terry Anderson. So, as well as some others who are on his team, and John Wonderland included. Yeah, so thank you. In fact, and speaking of our website team, which really behaves more as our tech team at this point, is Terry Anderson, Bob Simone, and John Wonderland. So let's thank them as well for all of their help making this happen. I want to thank Todd Milne, who is here this morning, helping to navigate us through what is really a storm of an event as far as the length of time and the chaos and confusion. Todd, always appreciate you, your expertise in putting up with us. And Shelley is here too, who's going to be working with us the rest of the weekend starting tomorrow. So Shelley, thanks for being here and apprenticing with Todd today to make sure everything's set up great. I'm not going to introduce our provisional board members. We'll do that more during our business meeting tomorrow, but I would like everyone who is here who's on our provisional board. So we've been calling it a provisional board, and provisional bylaws, because we have to start somewhere, right? I mean, basically, I started this organization by finding some people I trusted and said, hey, you guys want to help me start this? And they said, yeah. And then as we progressed and had to become formal and register with the state and get our articles of incorporation, we had to have bylaws. Well, how do we have bylaws for a member organization where no members have voted on the bylaws? Or the board, for that matter. So we said, well, let's call everything provisional until we can have our first meeting, and then we'll shift over to bylaws and officers that have been elected. So these folks have worked incredibly hard, and I want to include Jay Kisco. He was on the board during the early days of it. There's Jay. So if everybody who's been on our provisional board working on behalf of this organization, Frank's here. I'm glad he's here to stand up too. Would you please stand or raise your hands? And wonderful. And as I said, we'll get to introduce you guys more tomorrow. But I want to be sure and thank you for the vision and for helping to make this happen as quickly as we possibly could. And then I thank Tom for the wonderful introduction, but I would also be incredibly remiss. I would not even be here if it weren't for the good folks, the members here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, whom I love very deeply and appreciate you guys keeping me on despite my apparently unpopular stances at times. And for opening this incredible space for this historic moment of our first NAUA yearly summit. So thanks to the folks here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. Okay, so what I really want to talk about is, why are we here? Right, there's that logic again, Lynn. Right, it's one thing to say we're here, but why are we here? What are our reasons? Well, we are here to celebrate a new beginning for liberal religion and all that we have accomplished in such a short time. We're here to hasten and bolster our liberal religious community by building and deepening our friendships and our connections. We're here to prove to each other that we are not alone, and that our congregations and our fellowships remain free and autonomous, yet they are not alone in our common hope, in our commitment, and our determination to make our world a better and a much more just place for all people, for our fellow creatures, and for our Mother, the Earth itself. We are here to promote and uphold our perennial liberal religious values and principles by letting the world know that they are not dead, they cannot be removed with a vote or edited out of existence, and that we have not abandoned our commitment to religious freedom and to the inherent worth and dignity of every person and all peoples. We are here to make history, just as Unitarians and Universalists have done throughout history. We are here to prove that despite attempts to demonize and dehumanize and dismiss us, that we are still standing, still vibrant, still filled with the joy of life and a positive purpose. We are here to roll up our sleeves and get to work, helping to make human society more just and more brave and more compassionate and tolerant toward one another. Because that's our job, that's who we are, and that's what the world needs right now. So thank you all for joining me here at this historic first summit of the North American Unitarian Association. Thank you all for all you have had to endure to get to this place and to bring you to this place. Thank you for standing with me and giving me strength when I felt like the whole world was being pulled right out from under me. Thank you for being here for each other. Look around. Thank you for being here for each other. And thank you for your continued commitment to our historic and hopeful liberal religious faith. Thank you for all that we have already accomplished, and thank you for all the good things that I know we will continue to accomplish tomorrow and during our many years to come. Thank you all for being here. I think I'm now going to invite Judi. You're up, Judi.
Yeah. So welcome again, everybody. The workshop that I'm going to help you engage in this morning is a time where we're going to gather your ideas, your thoughts, your visions, the things that perhaps you haven't even thought about, but yet will be triggered as you're talking to other people, for where you hope NAUA will go. We're going to do that first I'm going to give a very brief review of the things that have been accomplished in the 2 years, basically since Todd gathered those first founding members and then organized the Provisional Policy Board. Because I think it's amazing how much has been accomplished in 2 years. But it's certainly not a place where we need to stop. It's a place where we need to continue to grow from, to achieve what we want to achieve, to do what we want to do, and, as Todd said, to continue to make liberal religions thrive. Excuse me. So I'm going to say a little bit about the structure of how we're going to do that this morning, and then I'm going to go through and do that review of all that's been accomplished so that you'll have more context related to coming up with your visions, etc. I'm only going to talk maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the most, and then we will go to breakout groups. So you will have a whole hour in these breakout groups to come up with your ideas. Each breakout group is going to have a moderator, which hopefully will help keep the conversation going, and also a recorder. In some groups, the person who's the moderator will take the minutes and record all the ideas, and other groups have chosen to do it differently so that somebody else can be taking the minutes or taking down the ideas. And the important thing is that all of these ideas that have been gathered in all of the groups, both here and online, that they will be sent to me, handed to me, given to me. I don't care if somebody in a group, just hands me their scribbled paper, as long as I can read it and it comes to me, I'm fine with that. But that I actually get those papers by the end of the week, so that, an end of a week. So let's see, what's this?
Judi, do you have instructions for the folks who are Zooming, or will their host handle that?
Their host can handle that. All of the hosts had a meeting a few days ago where we discussed all this, so I think everybody's good. I hope they are. Let's see, so so you'll have about an hour to do this, and then we will all come back. You'll come back here. The folks online who have been in their breakout groups will go back here as well. And the moderators of all the groups, both the groups from here and the online groups, will report back. And the moderators are going to choose not to read all of the lists, but to choose the things that are mentioned most often, the highlights, the general tenor of whatever the conversations are. And they will take no more than 3 minutes to do that, so that we don't spend, another whole hour. Hopefully we can do that in the last half hour that we have. And then I'll just kind of give a quick summary at the end and give out my email. I'll give it out now. I'll give it out in the group. The groups will give it out in the group. So my email to get these things back to me, these ideas back to me, which I forgot to mention, I'm going to collate, put in a package, and present to the board so that the board then can call through them and figure out, oh, this is perfect, this makes perfect sense, or, we've thought about that. But anyway, so that they can ultimately take that forward. So my email address, I'm going to give it to you now. I'm going to give it to you at the end. I want to make sure that I get these things, unless I get the paper copy today. So it's Judi, Judi. Good, it's up there. It's judy.durham@gmail.com. Okay. So, Todd mentioned, gathering some of the founding members, and he had 2 meetings even before he announced to this congregation his intent to develop NAUA. That sermon, The End of an Era, which is kind of infamous and is floated around everywhere, I think it's, arrived to me maybe 5 or 6 times, which is great. I keep reading it, and it's wonderful. But the two meetings before that, with a group of the founding members, even they accomplished a lot. They worked on becoming the 501c3 nonprofit. They became a limited liability corporation, LLC. They went to the patent office to get the name trademarked. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. It involves a lot of work to get that done. Then on December 4th of 2022, Todd gave the sermon, The End of the Era. And I just learned that after that sermon, you gave a forum sponsored by the Fifth Principle Project, basically sharing again your ideas. The first provisional Board of Trustees meeting was held January 18th, 2023, so just a short time after Todd's announcing. And again, that January board meeting accomplished a number of things. They established a ministerial committee, a bylaws committee, a newsletter advisory board, and they chose the name the Liberal Beacon. And Terry Anderson suggested a monthly seminar for members about liberalism, which ultimately became the Academy. The first NAUA website was online in March of that year, 2023, and was in great part developed by Reverend Monroe Sycophus. And I learned last night that somebody else had helped. Frank, was that you? Jay, that was you. You helped with that one as well, yeah. And then in July of '23, internet suppliers were changed. The site was redesigned, and they hired a special company that worked primarily with nonprofit organizations. And it's been up and running ever since, except for a short scheduled maintenance. And Terry Anderson has now assumed control over the group that oversees the technology. The first NAUA program that aired was an Academy session, and as I mentioned before, the Academy was a brainchild of Terry Anderson. And we've had 14 sessions to date, the first one happening in April of '23. And when Terry took over the website management, Steve Palmer became the chair of the Academy Committee. The first Liberal Beacon was published in July of 2023, and there have been 15 issues since, and it's now under the editorship of John Miller. There have been 17 third Saturday worship services, Todd preaching the first one in May of 2023. And the International Alliance held its first meeting in November 2023 and currently has relationships with individuals or organizations in France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, the UK, Greece, Germany, Romania, the Philippines, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Nigeria. It has a presence in the European Unitarian Universalist Association and the International Convocation of Unitarian Universalist Women. That's a lot of reach. Yeah. And the Circles group, I think, are the most recent of the activities developed. This was developed by Mike Long, who is online, and he developed the circle groups. How many of you have participated in a circle group? Some of you, good, okay. He developed these as a way to increase contact between members, and he sketched out the concept in December of 2023, and they held their first Get to Know You circle in February of '24, and they have continued on developing new circles since then. So that's the little that's been accomplished. And I mean, as I said before, I'm just in awe of how much has been done in 2 short years. You should all be very proud. Everyone who has worked on it should feel very proud. This is great. So, part of the reason that I shared so much of the specifics is it gives you an idea of where we are now, and it gives you a context from which your ideas will take us farther. The other contextual component is the ideology of who we are. And to say it briefly, foremost, NAUA is a member service organization dedicated to supporting and promoting the practice of all liberal religions. Our intention is to help Unitarianism, Universalism, and other liberal religions thrive by providing support and services to our members, and of course by embracing freedom, reason, and tolerance, rooted in our commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of all people. So most of you, I'm sure, recognize and understand that freedom, reason, and tolerance originated generations ago as part of the Enlightenment values. And I don't think I really need to explain them all, but I'm going to do that only briefly because I see that these values, just as much as the previous accomplishments rather, can further your thinking about where we should go from here. Freedom, the right of every person to think and speak for themselves and to choose their own purposes and meaning in life. Reason, every person has the capacity to reason and consider the empirical evidence before them in their pursuit of truth and understanding. Tolerance, every person, regardless of their specific ideologies or identities, should have an equal standing and equal access to the benefits and protections of society. These values, these Enlightenment values, might suggest or potentially could raise bigger questions like, how would we demonstrate, how would the NAUA demonstrate its commitment to freedom, reason, or tolerance? What kind of support services might NAUA provide to show our commitment to these values? Do you think that we should have a stated commitment to justice, inclusive of all of the various justice issues, environmental, human, criminal, racial, economic, etc.? Or does the practice of freedom, reason, and tolerance include a justice ideology? You know, these are some of the bigger questions that when you start grappling with, then you have to start thinking about, yeah, but how are we going to do that? So that's another contextual area for thinking about where NAUA goes from here. How would we operationalize some of these bigger value issues? Some of the more specific questions that you may talk about during your breakout groups are, what are your hopes and dreams for the future of NAUA? Are there programs or activities that you would like to see NAUA provide that are not currently being offered? What new communities or groups would you like to see developed or participate in? Would you like NAUA to develop ways to increase face-to-face or regional contact? What new committees might you like to participate in? What do you want NAUA to look like in 5 years, in 10 years, or even beyond that? What are your ideas for growing NAUA? And what are the kinds of things that you think your home congregation, if you're still part of it, could use? What would they need help with that potentially NAUA could help them? So, as I said, during the breakout groups, you'll have a moderator and a record keeper. So the way that we're going to break up into these groups is the people on Zoom can leave now and go into their groups. They will be divided up equally with, I think there are 5 now breakout groups on Zoom. So they can leave us. In this room, what I'm going to do is we have 4 breakout rooms. Number 1 is the chapel, which is back through that door, and I will be leading the group in that room. Number 2, which is out those doors and down the hall, Terry will be leading that group. Number 3 is also down that hall. All these rooms are on the right as you go down that hall. Ron Strange is leading that group. And Joyce Francis is leading the 4th group in the 4th room, which is at the end of that hall. So I'm going to count you off, or have you count off by 4. We're going to just go right across the row. So 1, 2, Todd, you going to be in on this?
I think I will keep my voice, but I think I would rather stay out of this.
Okay.
Because I have my own ideas, you've all heard them, so I don't know your ideas.
Okay, Candace, you're 3? 1? 2.
3, skip me.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
3.
1.
4, 1.
3, okay.
3, 4.
Yeah,
Elizabeth, my daughter, can be 2.
okay. All right.
3, 4, 2.
Anybody back there? Okay. No? No. Okay, so do you want me to reread the rooms where you go? Yes. All right. Room 1 is, there you go, yeah. It doesn't have, yeah. Room 1 is the chapel. Room 2 is down the hall. Sign on the door, Terry Anderson. Room 3, down the hall, sign on the door, Ron Strange. 4, Joyce Francis, down the hall, the last room. And we will be back here, let's see, at 5 minutes of 12. No, 5, is that right? Yeah. 5 minutes of 12, we will be back here. Hi. Yes. Go through that sort of alleyway door straight in the back. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Your definition of freedom, reason, and tolerance.
I think I got it off the website.
Was this from the website?
Yes. Hey, Ron? Yeah. Could you run down to all the rooms and make sure everybody is coming back? Thanks. Yeah. Actually, the group isn't going to do it. The moderator is going to do it, and they can just come up here. Yeah, because it's only going to be, a quick, very quick. Okay, good. Joyce Francis. Okay. Just shake him up. Good. They're all back? Okay, because Ron just went and got Joyce's room. Yeah. So can everybody come and sit down so that we can hear what happened in all the other groups? So can everyone find a seat so we can get going?
I'm glad we extended the time. We went over the extended.
Yes, we did, huh? Pardon? Is the mic on? Yeah. Not very loud. I can be really loud. I was just going to have V come up here. Oh, they turned this one up. I can hear it. Okay, so what's going to happen now after everybody gets their seats? So if all the moderators can sit towards the front, then I will have you each come up here. I will start But if all the moderators are coming up, it'll be easier. Okay, so our group spent a little bit of time at the beginning, maybe too much time at the beginning, talking about where their individual congregations were at with UUA, NAUA, and then we did shift into how to grow NAUA. And one of the strategies that was suggested was that we use a tier approach, looking at multiple media ways to gain new members. Everything from putting up a little 10-minute YouTube video of what NAUA is, to sending out the Liberal Beacon far and wide, to targeting individual age groups with different kinds of things, etc. We also talked about the ideal discernment process that the Jacksonville, Florida congregation is in the midst of, and how they are positioning themselves to do what they need to do to fully withdraw from UUA. Maybe. They're positioning yourselves so that you could do that if you chose to do that, was really what I was trying to say, yeah. And we also talked about all of the potential ways that NAUA could be of help to congregations or fellowships that are being developed or in the midst of developing. Everything from providing canned sermons and, church in a box kinds of things to other assistance as needed, depending where they are in their process of development. And that's kind of the brief story of the things that were suggested in our group. Terry, I saw you a minute ago. Yeah. Okay, I was going to do everybody in this room first and then go there, but we can do that. They have more people too. Okay, let's see. I don't have their list of moderators. Somebody.
Kenning is one, I think.
Yep, Kenning. Can you hear me? Ken?
No, Ken has had a power outage, and he is unable to participate. So we only have 4 in our breakout: Stephen, Margaret, Mike, and Jean. Those are the 4 that will speak to you.
Okay. Gail, if I may start, Alan Lindrup will be giving the report from our group.
And Cheryl Pittenger will be giving the report from my group.
Okay. The first, Stephen's group, whoever is reporting for Stephen's group.
Okay, this is Alan Lindrup. I was part of Stephen's group and agreed to be the reporter out.
Okay.
The thing that probably had the greatest degree of support, and if you want to call it almost unanimous consent to, was we'd like to see more programming that relates to spirituality, and this could be in the form of like adult religious education courses. There may be circles, but maybe not, don't necessarily have to be in that format, but various things that encourage considerations of spiritual issues. So that was the thing that had the greatest support. Second, we need to have a place, it might be on the NAU website or so forth, but where we have a lot of resources for worship. These could be, like was mentioned, canned sermons and things like that, but we also want to have a lot of all kind of readings from liberal religions around the world and so forth. And kind of related to this is the capacity for the NAUA to have a legal advisor who could advise NAUA fellowships and congregations and others on the issues. Is there some patent or copyright or something that limits the use of certain materials for worship and so forth? So that kind of relates to that. A third thing is, many of us had talked about the NAUA should encourage our congregations and individuals to work towards social justice or social action through liberal organizations that share our liberal values, but to limit any statements it may make on its own to something that is very broad. It has is a very broad umbrella statement that could have a near unanimous support. Didn't want to go down the road of a lot of the conflicts that the UUA has had. So I think those were the three things that probably had the greatest degree of breadth of support.
Great, thanks, Alan. Should we move back to a person in here, Terry?
Well, not wanting to repeat things that have already been said, and the poor last group will have nothing to say maybe, but anyways, we thought we needed a way to shepherd or network new and emerging congregations. We thought that having a professional exchange such as Jay has been developing, where people can find a minister without going through a lot of rigmarole as the UUA currently does. We needed a curriculum mostly for children was talked about, but also for adult religious education. And again, the copyright issue, of course, came out. There was also interest in helping the NAU to develop ways that congregations can be members of both the CUC-UUA and the NAUA, and trying to facilitate that and make that common. We talked about whether we should have political stances and the justice kind of issues, and the consensus of our group anyways that should be left at the individual level, and it just leads to all kinds of strife within the congregation. We thought it was very important to increase face-to-face activities within regions as much as possible, and again to share resources from music to ministers to all sorts of different things to get some economy of scale going. Thanks.
Next on the screen, I can't see who is hand up, but.
Yes, it's Margaret Stewart.
Thank you. Go ahead, Margaret.
So we had 12 people in our group. It was a really great discussion. It was so interesting, the common experiences and common bonds. I would say there was generally good news from the small groups, and I think there are more small groups than we know. People, in my own case, the congregation in Chandler, Arizona, has a group of about 18 who are meeting separately and talking about what to do. And all of these groups obviously are going to need some support. everybody's looking forward to development of curricula, especially for kids and youth, and maybe music resources. There's obviously still a lot of, the huge sadness at having to leave an institution that's been so central to so many of our lives and find a new path. But also, I think there's a sense of wanting to let go and look forward. And we mentioned hope for more support for dissident UU ministers who are in such a at least awkward and really frightening position, afraid to speak out, afraid to do, what they might otherwise do. And huge gratitude for all NAUA has done so far. I have about 6 pages, but that's what I could pull out. So anyway.
Great, thank you. Good. Ron? Sure.
All right. We got through, you got about 6 or 8 questions that you told us to work from or encourage us, and we got through about 2 out of the 8, so that's about how far we got. And it was a hard time getting my group started. They just were pretty slow on the uptake. But, meaning they couldn't stop talking because there's a lot of energy out there, and it was wonderful. So the highlights, and this would go along with what we're hearing on Zoom and what everybody else has up here said. So how do we support Todd's vision? How do we keep that going? How do we spread that word? And at the same time, we want to avoid orthodoxy. Make sure the NAUA avoids any of those orthodoxy pitfalls that we've all experienced. How do we, a support center for those who've been damaged in their own fellowships, like a helpline. How can we call in? Can you send somebody out to speak? And maybe not Todd, because Todd's radioactive. I thought you'd like that, Todd. He's a lightning rod. So how can you slip somebody in there from the NAUA that helps support a town, a group that's trying to split off or having troubles and don't know how to negotiate? So that was good. How do we find like-minded people? Make sure it's a free thinker organization. Freedom of all religions, no dogma, anti-hypocrisy. Provide a place for those people who've lost their home. Support people in need of a community. Start some kind of practical psychological support call-in thing or a program. Give artists freedom to create. Give them a space to create and show their expression, in person preferably, but we know that we're virtually here a lot. How to get ministers? How do we find a minister that speaks to our needs? How do we get funds? Join the NAUA, find the NAUA. How can we help people find the NAUA? The NAUA needs to pay Todd. If anybody's going to get paid, Todd needs to get paid. They need help deprogramming people because we're dealing with a cult situation. And then on the other side, provide college-type programming through podcasts potentially. We need to get together in person. We need a call-in helpline. NAUA we got that. Let's see. Another one on analysis of issues called a dojo, I guess, that they do here locally, where you take looking at issues, how to find real truth and reason, and have a podcast outreach and analyze, make sure you're getting the truth. More people in person. We got to be in person. We need money for NAUA. Speakers Bureau. We need a virtual Speakers Bureau so that somebody who's got a small group that's just starting their church in a living room, that you can dial into a speakers type bureau, and somebody can give a talk. Start a business. I thought this was good. It goes back to funding the NAUA. Start a business. The NAUA needs to start selling things online, like mugs and T-shirts. Raise money. Start your business. How's that? Okay.
Ron, we want to put in Bibles,
Okay, who's next online? I see Jean. I can't see who is in front.
I think Cheryl is next.
Okay, Cheryl.
Okay, all right. We got a lot of the same stuff, but one of the things that our group talked about a lot about was the circles and how they felt like there needed to be more communication on the circles and more information on the circles. And also they said that partly because we're so remote from each other, that the circles tend to lose membership in the first few weeks. So maybe some mechanism where after a few weeks you can open up those circles again so that you can get new membership, because there were people that were interested but unable to get into the group. So a lot more information on circles, maybe even a separate newsletter or something, or email digest about the circles so people can get involved with that. One person indicated that, okay, circles are for small groups. What about more, someone said weekly and others said monthly, an open Zoom where you have a small topic, you start out with a small topic, and then you go into it and everybody's talking about various things that we need to be doing, kind of like we're doing here, where anybody can sign in, this is an open Zoom, please sign in if you have things you want to discuss with the rest of NAUA. So there was a kind of needing something bigger than the circles. Another idea was not to encourage people to leave the UUA, but if a congregation wants to leave the UUA, can a committee be formed that will produce the definitive document on how you safely leave the UUA, still protecting your assets, how to deal with issues you may have with the name of your congregation, which, so the UUA doesn't sue you for the name of your congregation. Also, we had several people that have that in their congregations that there's potential to do much more online and expand even those congregations that are kind of local, have local attendance, that there's the ability to expand to non-local, and that they needed that. And with that, in addition to having the NAUA as a service organization help with RE materials and administrative training and finding new ministers. Also, as someone else mentioned, like a speakers bureau, some way to get in touch with ministers who can provide online services, online speaking to services of all these congregations that are trying to have more online activity. Several mentioned about not being definitive about this is our position on a social justice issue. It's fine to have social justice issues. In fact, many people want those, but don't limit what people can have in the social justice issues, including someone who indicated that they wanted to invite Republican friends, but if the atmosphere is too partisan, that it's off-putting to people, so that we need to be, make that openness liberal religion, not political, and a spirit of tolerance. Almost done here. Let's see. A big one. Okay, NAUA, you said we're going to be a service organization. Several people indicated we'd love it if you were a denomination, not just a service organization, but a denomination that congregations and groups could join. And someone suggested that if we wanted to have a conference on a social justice issue, that a good one might be climate change, that we have incredible assets through our people in the UN and other things, and that this might be a social justice issue that a lot of people could get on board with and avoid some.
Okay. Joyce, why don't you come on up next?
I wanted to note 5 things that I think came out of our group, but along with a lot more, but these are the 5. The group wanted us to plant the flag of liberalism, to create curriculum for lifelong learning.
Let's go, moderator, wake up.
Do you want to, are you back?
They're back. Go ahead.
Hi, Matthew.
Not yet. Okay, so plant the flag for liberalism, creating curriculum for lifelong learning to explore and defend freedom, reason, and tolerance in our society as a whole, not just in a religious context. The group wanted us to help grow local and regional groups. I think that was to increase face-to-face community, and to do that, we need to let people know in a more thoroughly who we are, that we're here. Not a lot of, I meet too many people that don't know yet about the NAUA, and so we need to find ways to get the word out of who we are. The group also wanted us to focus a little more on feeding the need for spirituality. We can get too much in our heads and forget that there's a real spiritual component that many people are seeking, and that need not be from the pulpit, that can be in smaller groups. Also, an outreach in general. Both the list that we heard about the international groups was impressive, and keep doing that. But also within our own countries, that we should reach out and form coalitions with secular groups or other religious groups in our community. A unity as a church is a good partner for many of the things that we want to do, and we can expand our reach by forming those coalitions with other religious groups and particularly the international.